Can the Maple Leafs continue their winning ways with the Mammoth in town? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. You win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. What's happening, Dave? How are we feeling on a Wednesday?
No, feeling pretty good. Leafs are... It's so crazy talking to so many people about that game, and some people
Pittsburgh game.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh game. Just like, man, they were so lazy. Or man, I turned it off after the first period. Kind of some fair, just comments after a performance like that.
Oh, I would say like our commentary when we did the post game show yesterday was probably more negative than positive. You know, like yes, it was a historic comeback, but they did not play well for 2/3 of that game. And I would say 2/3 of our podcast, we were talking about the bad. Now they hunkered down and they got going and they started to play the right way, play the Berube way, and quote the way they want to play in the third period. We just need to see that far more often. Like we need to see that from puck drop. Got to see that right from go. And we'll get into all that. You know, they got the Mammoth in town, and that's a good team, man. Like the Utah Mammoth, they're 9-4 so far on the season, and this is a team that just continues to win hockey games. They've won 8 of their last 10 games here. So 8-2 in their last 10, and they had a win last night. They're on the second half of a back-to-back. They went to overtime, but beat Buffalo last night. So maybe a little tired legs. So Toronto, perhaps that will give them a bit of an advantage, but we can get into all of that momentarily. But there are some updates and some positive updates for the Maple Leafs. You know, it's been a tiring season in terms of injuries to this point. You know, we're just about a month away. This weekend will be a full month that the NHL season has been, and there's been a rash of injuries for the Maple Leafs. But it seems like some guys are starting to make their way back into the fold. Dave, what's the latest on Laughton and Lorentz and the rest of the crew?
Yeah, so you had Laughton, Lorentz practicing again. Laughton was back kind of skating Saturday, but obviously, you know, it wasn't enough practice time for him to get back into the lineup. But it looks like, based on the line rushes at practice, he's prepped and ready to go for his season debut alongside Lorentz, who had missed the last couple of games with suspected upper body injury after crashing into the boards against Columbus. So it looks like we're getting some reinforcements.
Yeah, and like those are two guys that play the way Berube wants the game played, right? They play with that tenacity, the style that they want to play with, right? Their urgency. And I would imagine Scott Laughton, who, you know, was arguably the best Maple Leaf in the preseason prior to his random injury, which cost him the first month of the season. He's a guy who I expect to kind of be shot out of a cannon here. Like, I think that he's going to have a pretty solid game. So he's going to make his season debut tonight. Why don't we take a peek at what the lines look like for tonight, the projected lineup for tonight's game? Because there's a lot of changes, I guess, with Laughton and Lorentz coming back in. So you got Nyes, Matthews, and William Nylander expected to remain as the top line. They looked fantastic in the third period. They got things going and were very productive offensively. So I like the decision to keep at it, give them another opportunity. Nick Robertson remains in the lineup in a top 6 role. Top 6 Nick might be a thing here, Dave, because there was an opportunity for Craig Berube with Lorentz and Laughton coming into the lineup for Robertson to come out, right? Instead, they said, let's take out Cowan. Easton Cowan takes a seat. Okay, well, is Robertson gonna, are they gonna put Domi back up there? Michelli gets back into the lineup, or are any of those two gonna go back into the top six? No, Nick Robertson's being rewarded. He continues to be a member of the top six here on the line with John Tavares and Bobby McMahon based on the way that he played in the game against Pittsburgh. So Robertson, Tavares, and McMahon as your second line. Joshua, Watt, and Michelli as the third line. And then you got Lorentz and Laughton drawing back into the lineup with Max Domi flanking them on the right side. And this is starting to look a little bit more like what we thought the lineup would look like on opening day when we first started camp. So I think we'll start to see more so what this Leafs team is supposed to look like on the ice, not kind of the garbage that we've seen over the first few weeks. I think the third period was a bit of a wake-up call for this team. They realized how they need to play to have success, and I'm looking forward to this game here tonight.
Yeah, we're kind of looking forward to just seeing this lineup, how it was envisioned at the start of the season, during the preseason. And the Laughton, I understand how much is a fourth line center supposedly supposed to really, bring in something to the team, but it just changes the dynamic. And like on some teams, Scott Laughton is probably not the fourth line center. He might be elevated just a bit more. The Leafs, we looked at this as they have pretty good depth down the middle when you have Matthews, Tavares, Roy, and Laughton. And we all know that the Scott Laughton we saw post-trade deadline from last year and the Scott Laughton we saw in the preseason, totally different players.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting him to come out with hopefully with some energy. There might be a little bit of rust. He hasn't been playing. He just hasn't been playing since the end of September?
Yeah.
Early October?
Much. Yeah. End of September. Or whatever. One of the last couple of games in the preseason, he ended up getting hurt. So, he'll be ready to go tonight. So I'm excited for that. And it should give Craig Berube more options. Right? Like defensively, we've seen at times, and if you throw the lines back up there, it almost, I look at that second line too of Robertson, Tavares, and McMahon, and I'm like, that doesn't look like the most defensively sound line. But when you have your third and fourth line both being defensively responsible lines, I feel like you can get away with that. And you just kind of make them a full-on, ozone face-off. You can protect that line and just let them cook in the offensive zone and do what they do best. So, that's kind of the way that Craig Berube, I think, envisioned deploying this team. And early in the season, he just hasn't been able to do that because he's had to change around these lineups so much due to injury. So as they get healthier, I think you'll start to see a little bit more of that top six, bottom six separation in terms of, responsibility. So maybe that will help unlock some of that top six to do a little bit more. Speaking of top six, though, I got to tell you, Dave, and the Leafs might be a bit of a wagon at 5-on-5, by the way. I've got a stat that will blow your mind, but I'll save it for the other side. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, no awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL And don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNHL so that they know that we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves.
Today's show is also brought to you by Doer. I'm so excited about the new jeans I have arrived soon from Doer, and I've heard just great things. Can't wait to wear them. The performance denim, slim straight, great for so many different things you get to do. Whether you want to wear them at work, do some errands, go out for dinner, drinks, sporting events. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They're antibacterial, meaning your jeans stay fresh longer, so you can wear them more and wash them less. And they're made with cool max that regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture. It keeps you cool and comfortable as temperature change. And we know that's coming right now with the winter time. So Doer jeans feel stretchy without looking stretchy. You don't want to see the tear in the thighs because you don't have the jeans that are able to handle it. It's like you're wearing your favorite pair of synthetic joggers, but they look like you're dressed out to go out in town. Doer combines classic jean wear style with the kind of style and comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. Best of both worlds. Designed to look great and stay comfortable all day, no matter what you're doing. Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try these, they'll be your go-to. And you can check out Doer here in Toronto with their store at 44 Ossington Avenue. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONTORONTO in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online, doer.ca/LockedOnToronto for 50% off. That's doer.ca/LockedOnToronto.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts and also up on YouTube. Dave, the Leafs might be a bit of a wagon at 5-on-5. It's funny. We've been kind of dogging this team for not being good enough offensively and without Mitch Marner, this offense looks stale. And lo and behold, I saw this pop up on Twitter today, and I had to go and fact check it to make sure that it's true. The Leafs actually are the number 1 scoring team at 5-on-5. They have 35 goals at 5-on-5, 38 goals at even strength, which leads the NHL. And if you look at the top goal of the top point scorers in the league to this point at 5-on-5, William Nylander is number 1, followed by John Tavares and Matthew Knies, who are tied for second with a couple other players with 14 points at 5-on-5. Isn't that something? Like we've been talking about, we have been criticizing this team for how poor that they've played. The offense isn't there. Meanwhile, you look at the league standings and you look at the stat sheet, and somehow the Maple Leafs have quite literally the top 3 5-on-5 point producers in the NHL.
It just goes to show where the struggles, when you're looking at it, it ain't 5-on-5. Like, yes, defensively, there are issues at 5-on-5 with the turnovers and how that's led to odd man chances. But their ability to score, look, against Pittsburgh, all those goals were at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They have, and that's the Craig Berube system, right? It's supposed to be possession, cycle opportunities, getting those chances at 5-on-5, converting on those chances. We were, not long ago, we were comparing the Leafs to some of the top teams. It wasn't looking so pretty, but it seems things have kind of turned the last few games, especially. Like they have really found ways to get goal. Like you look at.
Well, look what's happening the last couple of games.
Yeah,
right? Like who's scoring? Auston Matthews, back-to-back games now with goals at 5-on-5, and William Nylander, had 2 goals at 5-on-5 the other night. And you look at Nylander, he leads the NHL with 16 points at 5-on-5, like most of which coming in the last like 7 games, and John Tavares too is picking up a lot of points here at 5-on-5 and that production. So it's the big boys who are getting it done. I can't leave out Matthew Nyes as well, but it's those two in particular who the last couple of games have seemed to like got it going. And that's a big reason, I think, for optimism with this group, right? Like the first few weeks, there wasn't a whole lot to love with this team. There was pockets and moments where you're like, okay, that player had a good game, or okay, they had a good period as a team. But when you kind of strip it down and you look at it bird's eye view, they're the number one scoring team at 5-on-5. They averaged 3.32 goals per 60 at 5-on-5 this year, which is number one in the NHL, higher than Colorado, higher than Carolina, both of them, less than that. So that's really encouraging to see, which also makes me think like, man, if they can just unlock this power play at some point, which is still at 12%, 12.1%, now you really got a team cooking, right? That to me is kind of the last thing that I think the Maple Leafs need to get going. I think you saw in the third period, their 5-on-5 offense, a lot of it came from the fact that they played with a high level of intensity and compete level, and it led to goals and offense. But now all of a sudden you look and it's like, man, what if they finally get it going on the power play? That's to me the final piece of the puzzle to get this team into the direction that they want to go. They get that power play cooking. Watch out. Now the Maple Leafs have themselves, I don't want to say like a cup contender. I'm not quite there yet. I have not seen enough of it, but you got a team that definitely looks a hell of a lot better than they did a few weeks ago.
Really, that's it, right? It hasn't been, it's been a disjointed effort because they're doing good things 5-on-5 offensively, where the numbers suggest they're getting their opportunities, they're getting the goals. The power play has been god awful. Penalty kill has been, league is middle average, but last game wasn't very good. So there's still some areas there to improve on. I mean, they're also without one of their top penalty kills in Chris Tanev. That doesn't help matters either. But that's where the good team, like the contending teams, power play, special teams. It's not a area where they go, they're not, their numbers could be better. No, like contending teams, they're solid in that area. And like to give them credit, the Leafs power play every year in October, not very good. Then it slowly but surely gets better. Hopefully we're in that period now where it's going to start to get better.
Yeah. And it has to. Realistically, it has to if this team, wants to have success. It's not just scoring and defending. Like special teams, that third part of winning teams, especially in the playoffs. I mean, we've been there, man. Like one extra power play goal in any of those game sevens, realistically, and that series, those series probably go the other way. And the Maple Leafs have been on the losing end of a lot of those. A lot of those special teams battles in the playoffs. And then you look at the 2 years that they actually had success this past season against Ottawa, and then a couple of years ago against Tampa, they won those special teams battles and they won the series. So that's to me the one thing that's still holding this Maple Leafs team back is that lack of success at special teams. But you're starting to see, man, 5-on-5. The goal scoring is there, and the finish is starting to get there. The shooting percentage is starting to tick back up for a lot of these guys that were snake bitten a little bit earlier in the year. And defensively, they've actually been a pretty good team. When you kind of strip it down, they've allowed a lot of goals, which is not great, obviously. They're second in goals allowed at 5-on-5. So first in goals scored, but they are 31st in goals allowed. So it kind of cancels out a little bit. But when you look at the expected numbers, the Maple Leafs actually rank way better in defensive metrics, goals against, 2.36 expected goals against, which ranks them 10th, right above the Utah Mammoth. So defensively, they've actually been a top 10 group. The problem is they've got a terrible team save percentage. And when they make those little, those mistakes, the few mistakes that they're making, they've been costly and they've been major, right? Those odd man rushes, those turnovers, that's what's happening. So they're not giving up a whole lot, but when they do give them up, they're not getting that save. And that's been a big issue as well. And with Joseph Woll getting healthy, another kind of thing to look at for a reason for optimism. Joseph Woll gets healthy. That means that Stolarz could be well rested. And that's a thing too. Again, Stolarz actually had some rest ahead of that game against Pittsburgh. It looked like he wasn't playing that well when he had to put together the string of games there, but he had some rest in between, his last start in that Pittsburgh game. I think he played the Tuesday and then the Saturday. So he had 3 or 4 days to rest up and he played excellent. So there's some reason to be optimistic about this Maple Leafs team. I'll say that. It's not just because they've won 2 games in a row here and they're 2-0 in November, but the underlying numbers are starting to also suggest that they're playing better, and hopefully that those numbers start to yield the results that they want.
Like, here's the thing. How many times have we seen teams slowly build their way, right? Florida, I don't like comparing the Leafs to Florida because they're not built the same way, and the way that the way they play is different too. But like, Florida wasn't phenomenal all year last year. They went through their ups and downs, but like, the Leafs are a team that have tried so many different line combinations, moving guys around. It's not all going to work out right away, and certain teams come out of the gate hot and then they fizzle, right? We've seen that happen too. Eventually things start to even out when you have guys with the talent level that the Leafs have, should be able to, piece it all together, get on a run. And, this is a team that's capable of getting on a run. Once Joseph Woll gets back, they're going to have a 2 goalie tandem system where I think we're certainly realizing the benefit of Anthony Stolarz not having to play as many games. Correct. Right? Surely we would like to see the guy play starting goaltending caliber numbers, but he's also not being paid to that. He's paid to be in a tandem. And so having that tandem will also allow for goaltending to be fresh. You're without a top defenseman right now, Chris Tanev. That's going to also impact the way your team is playing. So, like, there are things that once, they work out and the Leafs can start getting on a bit of a roll, you're going to start to see the numbers correlate to a bit more success. The power play, that's still an area there that I think it's not as much. It has a lot to do with guys having to finally shoot. They just have to learn to kind of simplify things a bit more. They're trying too hard to be passive and wear down Pelinka. Is like, no, the way you do it is they get in the shooting lanes. Even if you take a shot and they block it, it's going to sting them and it's going to leave a bit of a mark. But if we've constantly talked about ways that this power play can get it going. Get it into the shooters' sticks and tell the shooters that it's on your stick. You shoot it, and don't wait too long to shoot it either. Right? I feel like they're waiting for the right chance. Power play is all about quick movement, decisive shots, decisive action. They're not being very decisive on the power play, and that's gonna be a problem for them if they don't snap out of that.
Yeah. Right now they rank 15th in shots per 60 on the power play. So, it's middle of the pack, which is, it's, you would think that they still would have a higher, percentage, although 8% shooting percentage, which is the 3rd lowest in the NHL. Typically, you got a much higher shooting percentage on the power play than 8%. But that's kind of the way it is right now for the Maple Leafs. It has not been a very good going here on the power play. But again, once they unlock that, I think that this team has a bright future because they're getting healthier. You're starting to see at least you saw in the third period of the last game, when they play their way, things go well, and it looks good. It looks like a team that can win. And they're starting to score again at 5-on-5, and it's the big boys who are scoring, which is clearly what they need. So some positives for sure when you kind of bird's eye view things about the Maple Leafs, and it's led to 2 straight wins, right? 2 straight wins, and picked up 4 points out of 4 possible points in November. They'll look to pick up another 2 points tonight against the Utah Mammoth who come to town. Let's take a break. Let's come back, and we'll tee up that game, preview that one next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. The NHL is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score the next goal to third period comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. Toronto looking to make it 3 in a row for the first time this season. They welcome the red-hot Utah Mammoth, who've won 8 of their last 10 games. They are coming off of a game last night, though, so they'll be on the second half of the back-to-back. So, hopefully Toronto can take advantage of a tired team. But let's take a look at the game preview and the game matchup between these two teams, the Maple Leafs and the Utah Mammoth. So Toronto 7-5-1, the Mammoth 9-4 on the year, and they've been the better team, no doubt. There's a group that's kind of coming into their own finally with some young stud players all starting to produce at the same time. Their 5-on-5 numbers have been great. Their special teams numbers, though, have not been. And that's where I think Toronto could probably take advantage. Maybe, and we talked about this team once they get the power play going, that'll be a big step for them. Well, this is a team with a 76% penalty kill. You probably could try and get something going here. And once you see one drop, I think they'll start to come in bunches. So that's kind of something that I'm aiming for tonight if I'm the Maple Leafs. But is a team that can score. They're averaging 3.38 goals per game, so got to be able to score as well. And we'll see what they can do tonight against the Mammoth.
Yeah, this is a Mammoth team that, I remember the game they played in Utah. It's not an easy team to go up against. They got a lot of speed. It's a young team, right? So young players have given the Leafs fits, right? Just the speed that they play with, and
they're gonna have to dig in, man. Like they're gonna have to make sure they keep everything in front of them. They've gotten the amount of odd man tonight. They cannot allow the multiple odd man rushes. Cannot allow it. No. Let's take a look at the Kraken lineup for tonight.
And boom.
There it is. So we got Clayton Keller with Barrett Hayton and Nick Schmaltz, JJ Peterka, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Guenther. Michael Carcone, former Toronto Marley, with Jack McBain and Lawson Krause, Brandon Tanev, Ken Stenlund, and Kyler Yamamoto. I forgot Yamamoto was
I kind of forgot Yamamoto was in the NHL.
I mean, I think because last year I don't think he spent a lot of time in the NHL. To be fair, Sergachev and Simashov on the blue line, Schmidt and Marino, and then Ian Cole and Oli Mata. And Vemelka played in Buffalo last night, so they'll probably end up getting Vitek Vanacek, who in the 3 starts he's had this year has played well. He's got a 2.00 goals against, a 2-1 record. But typically, Vanacek not a strong goaltender. He's bounced around from team to team over the last few years. So a goalie that you could beat. I didn't realize how kind of veteran that blue line is. Like, look outside of Simashev, who's young but really a really good defenseman. And even Sergachev is kind of starting to get up there because Sergachev is He was in the Matthews draft, if I'm not mistaken. So 2016, so that's almost 10 years in the league. He's, 28, 27. Obviously, Nate Schmidt in his 30s. John Marino's in his late 20s. Ian Cole, mid 30s. Oli Mata's in his 30s. It's kind of a veteran defensive group there out in Utah.
Yeah, kind of a mix smash a little bit there. Like Sergachev, obviously decent player. Marino, I remember when they made those trades.
Yeah.
And then you see, the rest of it. Obviously, injuries have played a factor in that on that blue line too, with Durzi out.
Look at the two players who are out tonight, both former Maple Leafs. So no revenge goal from Kerfoot or Durzi, which is a benefit to Toronto, because doesn't that always end up happening?
Yep, somebody definitely always gets their cookie when they play the Leafs. So, but it's still a very tough group, right? They don't look on paper. They don't look like a wagon, but the way they played this year, it's
you know what though, it's a really good top 9 though. And a lot of those young guys are starting to come through. Like that Peterka trade was massive to give them like another stud up front. It's like Peterka, Gunther, Cooley. You obviously have, Clayton Keller, who's come into his own over the last couple of years. Nick Schmaltz having a career season. He's like top 5 in scoring so far this year. Mentioned a lot of good players there, Dave. Who's our locked on player to watch tonight from the Mammoth?
It's probably the guy that got the very big deal, and that's Logan Cooley.
$80 million richer in the last week.
Just another one of those young players that's getting the big ticket before, what we kind of expected, and it's going to have trickle down effect, right? Like at 20, imagine as a 21-year-old, you've already signed a deal that's guaranteeing you $10+ million a year. It's crazy. Now, that's not without merit. He is, a top draft pick, a guy I've always thought that he was a bit underrated going into that 2022 draft, and probably if you ask a certain number of teams, maybe they would have done their draft a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, that was what the Slafkovsky draft, right?
Slafkovsky
and Juracek and who else went there? Shane Wright. Yeah, I mean,
Wright went right just after him.
Just after him, yeah.
Nemec, right?
Looking like the right pick there for Utah. They've made a lot of right picks lately. They've cleaned their act up. They're no longer the joke of the NHL like they were when they were the Arizona/Phoenix Coyotes. Now they got an owner who's putting money into things and actually paying guys, bringing in, the Peterkas, the Sergachevs, the Marinos of the world, and paying their stars to stick around like Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther. So it's a good organization that they got there now with Utah. But Logan Cooley, man, he's a very impressive young guy. 8 goals so far on the season, which is 1 or 2 off the league lead. Over 18.5 minutes a game for the kid. He's our locked on player to watch for Utah. What about the Maple Leafs, Dave? Who we locked in on here for Toronto?
Well, should be the guy who's finally going to be getting into the lineup. That is one Scott Laughton. Sure, he wants to show that last year was not what you would come to expect from Scott Laughton, and I'm liking what could be on the horizon from him. It'll take a little bit of time. All right, I'm not expecting to come out of the gate blazing, but I mean that preseason, he just looked like a totally different player than what we saw.
Confident. Yeah, looked confident, and he looked ready to go. And I'm excited to see what Laughton can bring to this group, man. Because clearly, when he went down, like that was a big hit to this team, and they ended up shaking up a lot of things in the lineup. So he's back in. Maybe that slots guys into where they're supposed to be and into the proper assignments as well defensively. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Scott Laughton has up his sleeve here tonight in his first game with the Maple Leafs this season. Keys to the game, Dave. What are the 3 keys for the Maple Leafs to come out victorious?
Kind of feels like sometimes we're repeating ourselves when we say they need to play within the structure, stay within their structure. But that's literally how they have found success. The Berube way has proven that it's got success, whether or not the players actually want to follow the Berube way. So, yeah, they got to find a way to stay within that structure, especially if you want to limit chances off the rush and, being a little bit tougher in the neutral zone, slowing them down. They haven't really been able to do that. Effort, tenacity. The first 2 periods might have been the worst 2 periods I've seen that team play in a long time. Then the 3rd period, there was effort. Players were playing with tenacity. They were strong on the forecheck, winning puck battles, going to the net, driving to the net, getting to those rebounds. Very simple. It kind of aligns with the structure part, but that's what they need to do. And you mentioned how the Utah penalty kill isn't exactly phenomenal. Well, this power play needs to start getting going, and there's probably going to be opportunities. Like Utah plays, they play a tough game. They like to get physical, and there's probably opportunities for you to go and get some power play opportunities. Yeah, it's like you have, slight change with Ekman Larson on the top power play unit at practice today. Let's see. I mean, they need guys who are going to be willing to shoot, but it still, in my opinion, comes down to 2 players. That's Auston Matthews and that's William Nylander, your top shooters. Nylander's goal against Pittsburgh, the second one, or the first the second one, because the first one was a backhander.
Yeah,
second one, shot from the point, gets through traffic, it gets past the goalie.
Yeah,
not overly complicated. What this team needs to start doing more.
Yeah, totally, 100%. So those are the 3 keys to the game for tonight, and hopefully the Maple Leafs can keep it rolling here in November. 2-0, looking for a 3-0 perfect start to November. It's usually a good month for the Maple Leafs, so they'll continue to try and do that here tonight. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You could subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast. You could on all platforms and receive daily.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.